What's up, YouTube? Northeast Side Sports Cards. And we're going to talk a little football today. Not something that we talk about a lot on this channel. You know, mention it every here and there. We primarily focus on basketball. Dove into some baseball in the last video. And the stuff from baseball, if you guys didn't catch that one, the synopsis basically was uh, is the new money from the NBA markets bleeding into baseball and starting to affect might not be the right word, but break some traditional market trends that you see on the baseball side. And to boil it down, the basic example was in the past with baseball stuff, paper PSA 10s usually were the leader in the clubhouse when it came to an individual player's cards. And what we've seen over the last few weeks is the Chrome cards gaining in popularity and actually surpassing the paper cards for some of these key players. And my speculation on that is people from the basketball market, all this new money, as I like to call it, is bleeding into the baseball market. And they learned from basketball that you chase Chrome. So when they jumped in chasing Chrome because they didn't know any better. It was just, hey, I like Chrome cards. I buy Chrome in basketball. That must be what I buy in baseball. So I think we're beginning to see the same thing in football. It's a little different in this case, but it is the market. The traditional football market seems to be evolving to a new beast. And this has been happening for a couple weeks. I've seen some chatter around this. So I'm not, the first one to pontificate this theory, but let's get into some individual. Let's talk generally about the football market and then kind of dig into some individual stuff. By the way, because I always forget. Like, comment, sub down below. YouTube nonsense. We are extremely close to 600 subs, and as part of that, this channel has grown much quicker than I ever thought that it was going to. If I sound different, it is because I invested in a new microphone. So there might be some growing pains here for a couple videos. I'm not sure what this is going to sound like yet. So if it's better, awesome. If it's worse, that sucks because this was expensive. But I'm sure I'll work out the kinks. I got some additional accessories and stuff I need to get and whatnot. But before, I was just using a Turtle Beach headset, essentially, to record these videos. I've upgraded to a Blue Yeti, which are Blue Yeti X, to be specific, which are extremely hard to find right now. I had a lot of trouble finding one. I knew that I wanted one, but they're not easy to find during a pandemic because everyone's buying this stuff for work from home. But regardless, I found one. My local Best Buy had one. I had to wait a few days to get it, but it is hooked up. It is running. I hope I sound better, but you guys let me know. If I sound like garbage, feel free to let me know. Hopefully, if it's that bad, I'll be able to fix it in the editing software that I use. But that's that. Little mini channel update / what's going on. But if I sound different, that is why. So football. Traditionally, the football market has been quarterback driven. Quarterbacks get all the love, get huge prices, even for guys that have barely played, haven't played at all, or might play. See in case, or a perfect example of this is Jared Stidham's cards were extremely high valued prior to the Case Keenum signing. Drew Lock stuff is extremely expensive based off what he's done on the field compared to what he's done. He hasn't done really anything on the field. He played, part of last season or whatever, and he was fine, but he wasn't like, Aaron Rodgers or Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes out there. But it's more speculation in the quarterback market compared to what you see in like basketball, for example. I mean, there's some speculation in basketball, but this feels much more risky because if one of these, I mean, you guys, if you watch football, these players turn over quick, especially quarterbacks. There's very few of them that actually bust out, and a lot of them just become busts. As a Browns fan, I am well aware of quarterback busts. and how frequent they come around. Pray for Baker. So typically the quarterback card market, or typically the football card market, has been driven by quarterbacks. You saw very little price fluctuation slash high prices slash big returns on running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, basically anything else. And I think a lot of that was due to, especially on the running back side of things, they get hurt a lot. Their shelf life is very short, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the last 3 weeks or so, maybe longer, but for the last few weeks, there's been some interesting price trends with running backs and wide receivers going way up in price compared to where they would typically sit. Getting to the point of not quite quarterback level, but they're climbing and climbing quickly. And the only real explanation for this that I could find, because this is breaking the NFL standards in regards to the hobby market, is the new money coming in. You know, people buying, jumping in, people jumped in with basketball cards first, and then they're slowly filtering down to the other sports. And, just about everyone in the world plays fantasy football, knows who Julio Jones is and Devontae Adams and Chris Godwin and, this, that, or the other thing. And if you're looking at cards, especially if you're comparing it to the NBA market, Julio Jones is one of the best wide receivers in the league by far. And this stuff was pretty cheap. You compare that to like even a mid-range NBA rookie, and it looks like they're giving it away. So the money's starting to flow to these guys, and that, like I said, is against norm. I got some examples up here from market movers of the price escalations we've seen. And I truly think that the NFL market this fall is going to be just like the NBA market is now, except I think it's going to be more extreme because of the way that they play once a week versus every other night or every night in the NBA. So what we've seen in the NBA market is someone has a big game, especially someone young and trendy, their prices go ballistic. And I think you're going to see the same thing in football. One of these wide receivers or a running back goes off for a big game. I think their prices are going to go nuts. Now, I'll say this. And all the examples I'm about to show you guys are all wide receivers. I have no running backs on here. I personally would not invest my money into running backs. This is just me personally. I think it's way too much risk. These guys are one tackle away, one slip, and this goes for any NFL player, but especially running backs, from a major knee injury or any type of major injury, but mostly knee. And then anything you had wrapped up in them is toast. I would say if you want to invest in running backs, spread it around. Don't be like, I am all in on Christian McCaffrey or I am all in on Saquon Barkley. I would make sure that I spread it around. That way, if one of them loses a leg, your whole entire portfolio of NFL running backs is in the red. NFL seems to me extremely risky. I've not dabbled in the NFL card market a lot. So maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I have played fantasy football for 25 years. And we all know how that goes. These guys get hurt all the time. So I am sticking more towards wide receivers. I think people have started to catch on to the wide receiver market, as we are going to see there are some price trending all in the up direction. But I think there's some guys that got left behind, and I think there's still more room to grow, especially if these guys go crazy on a Sunday. So we might be a little bit late to some of these guys, but I think there's a group that we're still ahead of, and I think there could still be opportunity even for these ones that are already trending up. So the first one we see here is Chris Godwin. This is his Silver Prism 2017. And you could see this is 2 weeks worth of data. It is up 100%. It started this 2-week period off at $35 a card and is now up to almost 75. And this is all raw. This is raw in this case. Some of these football cards have very low pop counts when it comes to PSA or BGS or whoever. So Market Movers doesn't have a lot of data for some low population cards, but I pulled what I could from to give you guys some examples. So this one's fairly obvious. He had a monster season last year, and now he has Tom Brady. So a lot of buzz around that team. I could definitely see this card keep continuing to go up. I'm from a fantasy perspective, I'm a little hesitant on Bucks wide receivers just due to what does Brady have left in the tank, whereas Winston was a fantasy free for all. If Winston was still there, I would love both these guys from a card marker perspective because Winston just put up monster numbers, and I don't know that that's Brady's style. But I understand why his card's going up. There's going to be a lot of eyes on that team this year. So, and speaking of the Bucks, his partner in crime, Mike Evans, this is his 2014 Prism base and his silver. You could see once again over the last 14 days is also up 100% and 233%. So his base Prism was $10 a piece and is now $22 a piece. His silver was $15 a piece and is now $50 each. So you can see these wide receivers. Like I said, we're a little late to the game on a lot of these. People have already beat us to the punch on this, but like I said, I think there's still some guys that have potentially fallen through the cracks that aren't necessarily established yet in the league. But you could see this is not normal for this market, but you could see what the trends are going. And like I said before, I believe this is the basketball, I'm going to call it the new money, bleeding over to the sport and not understanding why these guys that they, take in the first round of their fantasy drafts are super cheap. And I honestly think, and I'm not the first person to make this comparison, and I've said this on the channel multiple times, the sports card market is shifting into a hybrid version of gambling / DFS. This is not new. I am not the originator of this, but I've been comparing it to the DFS market or DFS for a while, especially when you look at something like Star Stock, where you can instantly buy and sell cards. I could easily see, I don't have this guy's chart on here, but Cortland Sutton has a really good matchup this Sunday. The secondary is a little banged up for whoever the Broncos are playing. His stuff's real cheap on Star Stock. He's the value play number one on FanDuel and DraftKings. Let me go load up on 10 of his base Prism cards or whatever for I have no idea what Sutton sells for $5 a piece. And maybe he has a great game. People start buying him up, and next thing you know, now his base Prism is $20 a piece, as we've seen from what's going on in the NBA markets. That's not that big of a stretch. Michael Porter Jr. had 2 good games in a row, and his prices tripled in 2 days. In the NFL market, you have a week between games, so it's going to be a while before anyone sees them do something bad again. So that there could even be a little bit of a longer run. It's not like the NBA where someone has a big game, their price spikes, and then they have a bad game right after, and their price tails off a little bit. There's going to be more downtime to feed that frenzy, essentially. So speculation on my part, but I'm just spinning it forward based off of what we're seeing in the basketball market and hell, even the baseball market. Juan Soto has a couple good games in a Gary Vee tweet and his prices go nuts. Same with Fernando Tatis. Fernando Tatis has been playing out of his mind, but his prices are going crazy. I don't see why that's not going to spin forward to the NFL. Next one we got up on the list. This is a personal favorite of mine. This will be on a upcoming mail day to you video that I will be doing. I have been buying a lot of Odell Beckham Jr. I love Odell Beckham Jr. I loved him before he was a Brown. I loved him when he was a Brown, even though he had a bad season last year. I have a personal tie to Odell Beckham Jr. Not personal, but I had him. This was about 5 years ago. There's a little story time here. Northeast Ohio story time. Had him in a now defunct fantasy website in a large field GPP that if he had a good game would win me a lot of money. He had an extremely good game. We took it down. I think he went off for like 200 and some yards, like 3 touchdowns, Monday Night Football. And in total, I think I took down like $7,000 or $8,000 that night. And I said before the game started, if you have a good game, if you win me this tournament, you have a monster game, I will buy your jersey. I made a little, promise to the fantasy gods, and he backed up his end of the bargain. And before that game was officially over, Once I was locked in the number one, the Fanatics order was already in the game, and the Giants jersey was on its way. Even though I have impartial towards the Giants, the day he was traded to the Browns, I was on the website ordering the jersey. Um, so I could be partially biased on this. I just know that when he was a Giant, he was one of the most popular players in the NFL by far. He made the most ridiculous catches, and he was a media superstar, essentially. If Baker can get it together and the Browns can get it together, and I have my concerns because of COVID and practices, and he has some good games, I could see his cards going absolutely crazy. Odell has a massive fan base, and he just makes highlight reel catches where he's going to be on everything on Sports Center, the whole NFL countdown, whatever, the whole 9 yards. If he has a good game, he's on every highlight show from here to Timbuktu. And I could see that playing out on his card market. And his stuff to me in this, let's pop over here. Mike Evans is going for raw about $22. Odell Beckham's Prism, same year card, is going for about the same price. To me, Odell's the much better player, in theory. Mike Evans did not have a good season last year per se, but I don't think Mike Evans has the cult following that Odell Beckham Jr. does. And if Odell goes crazy, if he has a big game, I just see his prices going nuts. And to me, at $20 a card to $25 a card for a Prism base rookie seems cheap if this NBA market floods into the NFL as the NBA season starts to wind down. They're all going to run the Prism because it's what they know from basketball. And his only other real option is Topps Chrome, which any of the new money isn't going to even know that Topps made football cards. I kid there a little bit, but the other thing, these pop counts are extremely low on him, on most of these guys, to be fair, but specifically, I've done the most research on him because I've been buying his Topps Chrome. There's only 770 of them. His Prism, the pop count, I think is under 100 on his PSA 10 Prism. That is dirt. That is a very small number. So once again, I can see his prices going crazy. I did not pull up like his silvers. There's a bunch of variations from this year, all sorts of shenanigans with 2014 Prism. But to me, Beckham at around 20. I've been finding him for $20 to $30 a card. I've been trying to buy him for under 25. I've been semi-successful on that. I got one in the mail today. I got about 5 or 6 more coming. And I got a couple Topps Chromes on the way too. But I just think that's very cheap, all things considered. Julio Jones, his prices have skyrocketed. We got PSA 10, his base Topps, and his Topps Chrome. Once again, we can see this Topps Chrome and this Topps. The pop counts are under 100. These are his PSA 10s. This is over the last 14 days as well. You can see it's up almost 60% on both of them. Topps Chrome's 150, or Topps Paper is around 150-ish, and the Topps Chrome's around 365. This is one I think we're just too late to the party on. Could it go higher? Absolutely, yes. But I think I would, if I'm going to spend 365 on Julio, who I adore, but is also old and has a potential history of soft tissue injuries, I would rather spend that money other places. I'm going to speed this up just a little bit because we are going long, and essentially these are just the same examples over and over again, just different players. Same thing here. Michael Thomas, Silver Prism, 2016 Raw. This is over a 14-day period, is up 140%. So once again, as we've talked about, this money is flying to the wide receiver market. Once again, the running back market's doing the same thing. Saquon's way up. Christian McCaffrey's way up. Kamara's way up. I'm not doing it. If it bites me in the butt and these guys' prices go even more crazy, more power to them. Once again, I'm going to say if you are going to get in the running backs, do not hesitate to lock in a profit. Do not get greedy with them. If you buy into whoever and they have a couple good weeks and their prices triple, if it was me, I would be selling. There's just very few of these guys that have super long-term or a super, I don't know what the word I'm trying, how I want to phrase this. They basically have a lot of longevity in this league at that position. There's very few guys that can hold on to that. And to me, it's just not worth the risk. Let's get into some guys that have not seen huge price spikes yet, but I think could. And this is another guy I've been buying. I haven't bought this card in particular, but I've been buying some of his other stuff, and that is AJ Brown from the Titans. This dude is a freak, and I absolutely love him. Once again, this could be personal bias. I'm not like a Titans fan or anything. I just adore AJ Brown, and I just think he's a physical freak. His stuff is relatively reasonably priced, all things considered. I ran this chart back 30 days, and his price has hardly changed. It's gone up $8 on his silver prism, with a high of 65. Started at 45, ended at 55 with a high of 65. And you can see it's kind of jumped around a little bit. It went down, it went up, it went down, it went up. But I adore AJ Brown. Base prisms, silver prisms, if you like the player, and I'm using these younger crop of receivers, pick whoever you want. It could be AJ Brown, it could be Cortland Sutton, it could be whoever. The point is, the veteran established guys, I think we missed the window on a lot of them, other than a couple. But the younger crop guys doesn't look like they've gotten the bounce yet. So pick a couple guys that you like and shoot your shot. I'm not telling you to go buy AJ Brown. I'm saying he falls into this category, and I like AJ Brown. Try not to give these are the 5 players you need to run out and buy right now. I try to stay away from that as much as possible, but he falls into this class of players that I'm looking at, these wide receivers that have been in the league for 1 to 3 years that haven't had these huge price bumps yet, like we're seeing with Godwin and Michael Thomas and Julio, etc. Next one up is Calvin Ridley. He's another one. His stuff to me seems pretty cheap. This is a PSA 10 base prism. This is not, a lot of this stuff's not in market movers, so I just pulled up some eBay sold listings. 2018 prism base, $45. Rock hard, $10. He had some really nice games at the tail end of last season running with Julio Jones. I have concerns about the Falcons in general, just because Ryan's so old and Jones could fall apart at any minute. But to me, $10 a card, this seems cheap. And once again, whether you like Calvin Ridley or not, that's up to you. But he's like the perfect mold for what I'm talking about. These second and third year young wide receivers that haven't hit the scene yet, that are percolating underneath if you want to use a fantasy football as an analogy, they're not on your wide receiver tiers. They're not the tier 1 or tier 2 guys. They're like the bottom half of tier 2, tier 3 guys, but they're the young up and comers that are, maybe not this year or next year, are going to be guys that you're drafting at the top of your fantasy draft. Just to kind of use that as a comparison tool. Here's one that I am surprised has not taken off yet. To me, his stuff seems priced reasonable. Maybe that's more due to Aaron Rodgers' age, but Devontae Adams stuff seems cheap to me compared to the others. Beckham and Mike Evans are selling for the mid 20s to 30s. Devontae Adams, here's some sold listings from just yesterday. $18, $15, $14.50, $15. Why is Chris Godwin, Michael Thomas, and those guys' prices all going crazy? Odell Beckham to a lesser degree, Julio Jones. In my mind, Devontae Adams is right there with those guys. So maybe this is one of the veterans that have kind of slipped through the cracks. I don't know. So once again, kind of check around the players that you like. Maybe a vet hasn't caught this bug yet. But I mean, Devontae Adams is I hate to keep comparing this to fantasy football, but I think it's the best correlation. He's one of the first 3 wide receivers off the board, if not the first wide receiver off the board in drafts typically. So why aren't his card prices seeing the same thing? Because I understand fantasy football is not real football, but I think people coming to this market, that's how they're going to think of it. So I keep using that as an example. If that's right or wrong, we'll find out in 2 months or a month. Not even. So that's just a vet that looked like it slipped through the cracks. The last one is a non-wide receiver, but this guy puts up huge numbers. And if these other guys are catching steam, I don't know why he's not. And that's Travis Kelce. His 2013 Prism rookie, $25, $20, $20, $25 best offer was accepted. I should have 130 point up, but this was just easier. $30 a piece on a 2-card lot. Here's 3 of them for 60, $20 a piece. Here's an auto for $42. Like I said, I know he's not a wide receiver, but he's basically a wide receiver for the Chiefs. He's going to put up huge games. He's probably going to go to the Super Bowl or at least the AFC Championship again. Everybody loves Mahomes. There's a ton of eyes on that team. So maybe this is one the market just hasn't caught yet, or maybe I'm just completely wrong on this and I'm stretching too far, reaching for a tight end. But if my theory holds and this new money stays in the market and they're just basing purchases off game performances, Travis Kelce puts up huge games week after week. 15 catches, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's just like, week 2 for him. That's nothing. So to me, his stuff just seemed cheap. And I understand it's a tight end. Like I said, I could be reaching here, but I'm just trying to take what we're seeing from the basketball market and spin it forward to football and how that's applied to baseball already. So that was the last example that I had for you. We probably went a little long today. I pray that the audio is okay on this and I did not just waste 20 minutes of my time or however long this video is. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. YouTube crap, as I mentioned before. Like, comment, sub if you haven't already. Let's blow through 600 with this video. We should, but I'm just under 600 at the time of recording. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below. Feedback on the video, feedback on the mic. And we will catch you guys probably this weekend for a weekend review will be the next video. I don't know that I'll do it live again. We'll see about that. The first one went pretty good, other than the fact that I had 2 streams running and 2 chats and didn't realize it. And I'm an idiot. So we'll see how this mic holds up for this and all that other jazz. But there'll definitely be some type of a weekend review video on most likely Sunday sometime, whether it's live or not, or maybe I'll do a premiere again. But that's all I got. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.